My name is Kristen, 28 years old, and I just finished the night shift at the hospital. Walking into my apartment, I found my mother and sister Lisa waiting with matching smirks. "You have 30 days to move out," my mother said coldly. "We sold your apartment to Lisa." I stood frozen keys still in hand as my world collapsed. Family betrayal cuts deepest. But Grandma taught me to stand tall. I smiled and reached for my bag. "Actually, Grandma left me two properties." Their smiles vanished instantly. Before I continue my story, let me know where you're watching from, and hit that like and subscribe button, because you'll want to see how this family drama unfolds. I dropped my nursing bag by the door, still wearing my scrubs after a 12-hour shift. The pandemic had stretched healthcare workers thin, and I was no exception. 6 consecutive night shifts had left dark circles under my eyes, but I took pride in my work. Helping patients through their darkest hours gave meaning to my exhaustion. My apartment wasn't fancy, just a modest one-bedroom in a decent part of town. The walls were painted a soft blue, reminiscent of the ocean where Grandma Sarah used to take me as a child. I had worked so hard for this place, saving for years, while working through nursing school with what I thought was help from my parents for the down payment. At least that's what Mom had told me, that they were helping me invest in my future. I sent her extra money every month beyond the mortgage payment as my way of paying them back. "Nice of you to finally come home," my mother said, her voice carrying that familiar edge I'd grown up hearing. She sat on my couch like she owned it, designer purse perched beside her, legs crossed at the ankles. Her hair was freshly highlighted, her nails perfectly manicured. Despite approaching 60, she worked hard to look 40. Beside her sat my sister Lisa, 32, scrolling through her phone with obvious boredom. Lisa had never held a steady job, drifting between failed relationships and brief career attempts. She lived with our mother in the family home, surviving on an allowance and occasional boyfriend support. "I was working," I said simply, too tired for their games, "saving lives and all that." My mother waved away my comment as if swatting a fly. "We have something important to discuss." The family dynamics had always been clear. Lisa was the golden child who could do no wrong, while I was the responsible one, expected to achieve, but never acknowledged. Dad had been my buffer, the one person who saw my efforts and valued them. But we lost him 2 years ago to a sudden heart attack, leaving Mom in complete control of family matters and finances. Grandma Sarah had been my other ally. My father's mother, she was kind, but fiercely independent until her death 6 months ago. She'd always whispered that I reminded her of herself, determined and compassionate. We shared Sunday dinners whenever my shifts allowed, and she told stories of her youth while teaching me to make her famous apple pie. When she passed, I was devastated, but couldn't even attend the will reading because of an emergency at the hospital. Mom assured me everything had been taken care of, and in my grief and exhaustion, I accepted her word. "Can this wait? I haven't slept in 24 hours, I said, moving toward the kitchen for water. "No, it cannot wait," Mom replied sharply. "We've been planning this for weeks." My best friend Taylor had warned me just last week over coffee. "Your family takes advantage of you, Chris," she said, stirring her latte aggressively. "Your mom collected money for your apartment down payment. But did you ever see the paperwork? And why does Lisa always need emergency cash that she never repays?" I had dismissed her concerns as I always did. "They're family," I'd said. "That's what family does." Taylor had given me that look, the one that said I was being naive. "Family doesn't treat family like an ATM," she'd replied. Now watching my mother and sister exchange glances in my living room, I felt a chill that had nothing to do with hospital air conditioning lingering in my scrubs. "We've sold your apartment," Mom said again, this time with a note of triumph. "To Lisa. She needs her own place, and this location is perfect for her." I stared at them, waiting for the punchline. "That's not possible. This is my apartment. I've been paying the mortgage for 5 years. Mom's smile turned predatory. "Actually, your name was never on the deed. The apartment is in my name, always has been. I used your down payment and monthly contributions for the mortgage payments, but legally, this property is mine to sell." The room seemed to tilt slightly. I gripped the counter to steady myself. "Why would you do that?" I whispered, the betrayal so complete I couldn't fully process it. Lisa needs a fresh start, Mom replied as if it were obvious. And you're always at the hospital anyway. You can find somewhere smaller, more suitable for someone who just sleeps and showers at home. Lisa finally looked up from her phone. I'm thinking of painting it yellow, she said, gesturing at my carefully chosen blue walls. And that couch has to go. So depressing. I realized then they weren't just taking my home. They were erasing me from it as if my existence, my choices, my life were inconsequential. The money I've been sending you every month, I said slowly, was supposed to be repaying you for helping with the down payment. Consider it rent, Mom shrugged. Quite reasonable for this neighborhood, actually. 5 years of payments, thousands of dollars I could have been saving, hours of overtime shifts I worked to make those payments, missing friends' weddings, birthdays, holidays. You have 30 days to find somewhere else. Mom continued, opening her designer purse and extracting an official-looking document. Here's your notice. Lisa will be moving in after renovations. Renovations. They had already planned changes to my home while I was working through the night, saving lives during a pandemic. I can't believe this, I said, my voice sounding distant to my own ears. Believe it? Lisa smirked. Where are you going to go, by the way? Apartments are so expensive right now. Something in her tone sparked a memory. Grandma Sarah, in our last conversation before her passing, pressing a small key into my palm. There's a safety deposit box at First National, she had said, her voice weak but urgent. Promise me you'll check it after I'm gone, Kristen. Promise me. I had promised, tucking the key into my jewelry box, but in the chaos of grief and pandemic surges, I had forgotten. Until now. Grandma's will, I said suddenly. Did she leave anything to me? Mom's eyes narrowed slightly. Everything was settled months ago. She left personal items to be distributed among family. Nothing significant. But Grandma's expression that day had told a different story. There had been purpose in her fading eyes, determination in the way she'd folded my fingers over that key. I think you should both leave now, I said quietly. I need time to process this. Mom stood smoothing her expensive slacks. 30 days, Kristen. We've already been generous considering the housing market. As they gathered their things to leave, I felt something shift inside me. A lifetime of acquiescing, of believing that family meant accepting mistreatment, began to crack. I'll be in touch, I said as they reached the door. Neither looked back as they walked out. In the silence of my apartment, my home that apparently had never legally been mine, I realized how much I had accepted without question. How many times I had been the family safety net while receiving nothing in return. Tomorrow I would visit the bank and finally keep my promise to Grandma Sarah. The moment my mother and sister left my apartment, the walls seemed to close in around me. My legs gave way, and I slid to the kitchen floor, still in my scrubs, my body finally surrendering to the weight of their betrayal. After years of working 60-hour weeks, after missing out on vacations and relationships to build my career and my home, it had all been a lie. How could they do this? I whispered to the empty room, tears burning trails down my cheeks. 5 years of payments, of believing I was building equity, securing my future. 5 years of being manipulated by the people who should have protected me. I reached for my phone with trembling fingers and called the one person I knew would understand. Taylor, I choked out when she answered. They're taking my apartment. Who is? Her voice instantly alert. My mother and Lisa. Mom says the apartment was never in my name. She's selling it to Lisa, and I have 30 days to get out. The words sounded surreal even as I spoke them. That can't be legal, Taylor said firmly. Come stay with me tonight. You shouldn't be alone. But I couldn't move. Couldn't imagine packing a bag and walking out the door. I can't leave, I whispered. Not yet. After promising Taylor I'd call if I needed her, I ended the call and pulled myself up from the floor. Moving on autopilot, I walked to my bedroom and opened my jewelry box, digging beneath tangled necklaces and earrings, until my fingers closed around a small brass key. Memories of my final conversation with Grandma Sarah flooded back. It was a week before she passed, and I had brought her favorite soup to her bedside. The cancer had left her frail, but her eyes remained sharp and knowing. "Kristen," she had said, taking my hand in her papery one, "your mother hasn't changed since she was a girl, always wanting what others have never satisfied with her blessings." I had tried to defend Mom as I always did, but Grandma had shaken her head. "Listen to me, child. There are things I've arranged, protections I've put in place. When I'm gone, give yourself a week to grieve, then go to First National Bank on Maple Street, Box 463. She had pressed the key into my palm, then closing my fingers around it with surprising strength. "Promise me you'll go, no matter what your mother tells you about my will." I had promised, but the pandemic had surged that very week. Between Grandma's funeral and the overwhelming hospital shifts that followed, the key had been forgotten. Until now. Sleep eluded me that night, my mind replaying years of subtle manipulations and dismissals. By morning, resolve had replaced shock. I showered away the hospital smell and pulled on jeans and a sweater, tucking Grandma's key safely in my pocket. First National Bank was quiet when I arrived just after opening. The banker who assisted me to the safety deposit room looked bored until I mentioned Sarah Jenkins. "Mrs. Jenkins was a long-time client," he said, his demeanor warming. "Very sharp lady, very particular about her arrangements." Box 463 yielded a large envelope sealed with wax, like something from another century. My hands trembled slightly as I broke the seal and emptied the contents onto the private viewing table. Legal documents, letters, photographs, and on top a note in Grandma's distinctive handwriting. "My dearest Kristen, if you're reading this, I've passed on and you've kept your promise. What follows may shock you, but knowledge is power, and you need power now more than ever. Your mother has been manipulating the family finances since before your father died. I've enclosed proof and protection. Read everything carefully. Then call Amanda Hernandez my attorney. Her card is enclosed. With love and faith in your strength, Grandma Sarah." The legal documents were immediately clear even to my non-legal mind. 2 property deeds, both in my name. One for a beach house in Westport I'd never known existed. The other for an entire apartment building in downtown Millfield. The same building where my apartment was located. My apartment, my building. According to the transfer documents, Grandma had signed over both properties to me 6 months before her death, with the stipulation that the transfer remain private until after her passing. There were tax records showing she'd paid gift taxes on the transfer. Everything was legal, recorded, and irreversible. Next came letters documenting communications between Grandma and her attorney regarding my mother. Apparently, Mom had attempted to pressure Grandma into changing her will multiple times in her final years. There were references to financial improprieties to my father's life insurance, being diverted to my mother's gambling debts. The photos showed the beach house, a charming blue cottage overlooking the ocean. There were older photos, 2 family gatherings from decades past, my father as a young man, standing proudly in front of the apartment building. History I'd never been told. At the very bottom of the stack was a document that made my blood run cold. A copy of a mortgage application for my apartment with what appeared to be my signature. Except I had never signed it. The forgery was close, but missed subtle details of how I formed my letters. My mother had forged my signature, had taken my down payment money, had collected mortgage repayments from me for 5 years on a property she'd never purchased for me. I gathered everything with shaking hands and asked the banker for a private room with a phone. Amanda Hernandez answered on the second ring, as if she'd been waiting for my call. "Kristen Jenkins," she asked when I introduced myself. "I've been expecting to hear from you. Your grandmother was very concerned you might not find her documents in time." "In time for what?" I asked. "In time to stop your mother from selling property that isn't hers to sell." The office of Hernandez Legal Solutions projected quiet competence with its dark wood furnishings and walls lined with law books. Amanda Hernandez herself was a woman in her 50s with sharp eyes behind stylish glasses and a no-nonsense demeanor that immediately put me at ease. "Your grandmother was a remarkable woman," Amanda said, as I settled into the chair across from her desk. "Very perceptive about people and very protective of you." I placed the documents from the safety deposit box on her desk. "I'm still trying to understand all of this. My mother told me she helped me buy my apartment 5 years ago. I've been sending her extra money every month to pay her back. Amanda's expression tightened. That's fraud, plain and simple, she said, examining the forged mortgage application. Your grandmother suspected something like this was happening. She hired a private investigator last year after your father passed away. A private investigator? I echoed, trying to imagine my gentle grandmother taking such a step. Sarah was concerned about significant withdrawals from accounts that should have gone to you after your father's death. Life insurance primarily. When she questioned your mother, she was given vague explanations about investments being made on your behalf. Amanda opened a folder on her desk and passed me several documents. The investigator discovered your mother has a gambling problem. She's been in significant debt for years, using family assets to cover her losses and taking out lines of credit against properties. I scanned the reports, recognizing casino names and dates, times when Mom claimed to be at spa weekends or visiting old friends. What about my apartment? I asked, returning to my most immediate concern. Amanda's expression softened slightly. According to these records, your apartment is Unit 4B in the Westview building on Elm Street. Is that correct? I nodded. Kristen, you own that entire building. Your grandmother transferred ownership to you 6 months before she died. Your apartment isn't just yours, the whole 12-unit building belongs to you. The room seemed to tilt slightly as the magnitude of this revelation hit me. Not only had my mother been lying about my apartment, but I owned the entire building where multiple families lived. There's more, Amanda continued gently. Your mother has been collecting rent from all the tenants for the past 6 months, money that legally should have come to you as the property owner. The betrayal deepened with every revelation. My mother hadn't just lied about my apartment. She had stolen from me forged documents and collected income that wasn't hers. All while I worked exhausting shifts, came home to an apartment I thought I was still paying off, and continued to give her extra money each month. And the beach house, I asked faintly. Also legally yours. It was your grandparents' summer home. Your grandmother wanted you to have a place of sanctuary somewhere your mother couldn't reach you. Tears pricked at my eyes. Grandma had tried to protect me even after she was gone, had created a safety net I never knew I needed. What do I do now? I asked, feeling both overwhelmed and strangely liberated. Amanda straightened the documents on her desk with precise movements. First, we stop your mother from selling property she doesn't own. I'll prepare an official notice informing her that you are the legal owner of both the Westview building and the beach house in Westport. We'll also notify all tenants that rent payments should come directly to you moving forward. She paused, studying me carefully. Your mother's actions constitute fraud and forgery criminal offenses that could result in jail time. However, it's up to you whether you want to pursue criminal charges. The thought of my mother in jail, despite everything she'd done, made me uncomfortable. Let's start with stopping the sale and securing my properties, I said. I can decide about criminal charges later. Amanda nodded approvingly. A measured response. Your grandmother said you were compassionate to a fault. As we discussed next steps, I learned that the beach house was fully paid off and in good condition, maintained by a local service Grandma had arranged. The apartment building generated significant monthly income even after accounting for maintenance and taxes. I wasn't just not homeless, I was financially secure in a way I'd never imagined. What about Lisa? I asked, suddenly, remembering my sister's smug expression in my apartment. Did she know about all this? That's harder to determine, Amanda admitted. The investigator found no evidence that she was directly involved in the financial manipulations, but she certainly benefited from them. I thought about Lisa's designer clothes, her constant trips, her never having to work. Had she known where the money came from? Had she been complicit, or just another of Mom's manipulations? I suggest we arrange a meeting, Amanda said, interrupting my thoughts. Your mother and sister should be formally informed of the legal situation. I'll be present to answer any questions and ensure the conversation remains productive. Productive seemed optimistic, given the bomb we were about to drop, but I agreed. We scheduled the meeting for the following evening at my apartment. As I left Amanda's office, I felt a strange mix of emotions: anger at the years of manipulation, grief for the relationship with my mother I'd always hoped to have, relief that I wasn't losing my home, and underneath it all, a growing determination to reclaim not just my property, but my life. I took a detour on my way home, driving to the beach for the first time in months. Standing at the edge of the water, I thought about Grandma Sarah and her final gift to me. Not just property, but the chance to break free from a lifetime of manipulation. "Thank you," I whispered to the waves, imagining her spirit somewhere in their eternal rhythm. "I won't waste this opportunity." My phone buzzed with a text from Taylor. "How did the bank visit go?" "Are you okay?" I smiled, realizing I hadn't updated my best friend on the morning's revelations. "Better than okay," I typed back. "Can you come over tonight? You won't believe what Grandma did." For the first time in years, perhaps for the first time in my adult life, I felt truly in control of my future. Tomorrow would bring confrontation, but today I would celebrate my unexpected freedom. I spent the evening with Taylor, sharing every detail of my discoveries, while she alternated between outrage on my behalf and amazement at my grandmother's foresight. "Your grandma was playing chess while your mom was playing checkers," Taylor declared, raising her wine glass in a toast. "To Sarah Jenkins, guardian angel and secret badass." I laughed, feeling lighter than I had in months. I still can't believe I own an entire apartment building, or that beach house. I've never even seen it. "We should go this weekend," Taylor suggested. "Take pictures, make plans. This is your fresh start, Chris." The thought was tempting, but first I had to face my family. "Tomorrow's meeting first," I said. "Amanda thinks Mom might try to challenge the property transfers." Taylor's expression hardened. "Let her try. The documents are clear, right? And your grandma did this legally while she was still alive." That's what Amanda said. The transfers were recorded with the county 6 months before Grandma died. Mom has no legal grounds to challenge them. "Good," Taylor said firmly. "It's about time she faced consequences." The next day passed in a blur of anticipation. I took a rare day off from the hospital, using vacation time I'd accumulated over months of overtime. Amanda called twice to confirm details, and by 6 that evening, everything was in place. My mother arrived exactly on time, Lisa trailing behind her, with an expression of bored superiority. They both looked surprised to find Amanda sitting at my kitchen table, legal documents spread before her. "What's this?" Mom demanded, eyeing Amanda suspiciously. "Who are you?" "Amanda Hernandez, attorney at law." Amanda replied calmly. "Please have a seat. We have important matters to discuss." "If this is about extending your move-out period, Kristen, the answer is no," Mom said, remaining standing. "The sale is proceeding on schedule."